Hi readers, author MK Morris here, and today I want to talk about some of my all-time favorite book tropes and which of my books have them, so let's get into it. Also, before I even get into these tropes, I need to make a huge disclaimer that indie authors do not base our books, like the concept of our books, off tropes. That is one of the biggest and most irritating misconceptions I've ever heard. And I think that just kind of comes from people reading the same recycled plots over and over again, which does happen. But no, indie authors do not base our books off of tropes. Starting off crazy strong is Grumpy Sunshine. Now, if you know me, you know that's my favorite trope. Like top tier, absolute favorite all-time trope. I love to read it and I love to write it. So all these books are Grumpy Sunshine. With that being said, we're gonna kick it off with my latest release. This came out in May. It's called Greater Than Us. It's a Grumpy Sunshine small town romance about a sheriff and his detective ex-wife, and they are trying to figure out how to navigate through their divorce while solving the latest crimes in their town that are actually crimes against them. The Masseuse is another one. This is about a woman who moves to a small town in Georgia after being down on her luck her entire life, and she's finally rebuilding her life and making friends and kind of finding herself in this town, and she has never had a massage in her entire life. She's constantly sore, she's always complaining at work. Her boss one day is just like, girl, go get a massage. And I know a place, here's a card, go. And she does, and she ends up meeting a very handsome masseuse named Elliot, who actually owns the spa that she goes to. So that's the masseuse. Next up is A Midnight's Kiss. This is one of my all-time favorite books that I've ever written. This came out 2 years ago. It's about a woman who is trapped in her friend's basement at a New Year's Eve party, and she's trapped down there with her ex. They went down there to get some drinks. They haven't seen each other in about 4 or 5 years. Tensions are high. The ball's about to drop. They're about to miss everything. And they kind of have to navigate their feelings in this very cramped, scary, dark, cold basement. Highly recommend this one, especially around the holidays. The next book is called Remember the Promise. This is a book about a woman who goes up to Rhode Island to be with her family for a summer family reunion, and she meets a very grumpy mailman named Jace, and he's a twin. He has a hot twin brother, and they clash like crazy, but at the same time, she has really had a lot of family issues her whole life and relationship issues too. She has been in a messy, abusive relationship, and it's about her finding the courage to talk about that while on this little vacation with her family, and at the same time discovering what it might feel like to fall in love again. Next up is Brushed by You. This is another favorite. It's about a woman who is a painter. She's been an artist her whole life. She loves art. She loves to paint, but no one's really seeing her or her artwork. They're not valuing it, and she just up and moves one day and is like, you know what, let me just start fresh elsewhere and see if I can make an impression in another town. And she moves to a small town in Tennessee called Repose and is staying at a friend's cabin. Realizes that rent is a little too high. She puts out an ad for a roommate, and her roommate ends up being a very grumpy but helpful farmhand. So that's Brushed by You. You're still with me, I promise. We're almost done with Grumpy Sunshine. So a series I haven't yet talked about is called the Caper series, but only 2 of these books are Grumpy Sunshine. One is actually reverse Grumpy Sunshine, where she's the grouchy one. Everything We Lost is book 1. This is a Christmas romance, and it's about a woman who moves back to her hometown for the first time in 10 years. And she's actually a paralegal, and she has no clue that the case she's been assigned to is her ex's case, and they did not end on good terms at all. Book 2, Everything We Won, is a Valentine's Day romance. I feel like this is one of my most unique books. This is a race car romance, so if you guys are into like sports and race car drivers, then this is definitely for you. It's kind of a fame versus love, what will he choose kind of book. And this is a book about 2 characters from book 1, and I gave them their own book because I love them so much. Donovan and Solana, and Donovan is a race car driver for the local small town racing team, and his dream is NASCAR. He wants to make it big. He wants to be, you know, on the fast track to just success and fame. But Solana is also his dream, and unfortunately Donovan has a huge ego, and she hates that. So he has to try to pick between fame and the love of his life. Next is the Lie series, my firefighter romance series. Only 2 of these books out of the 4 are Grumpy Sunshine or have Grumpy Sunshine in them. And book 1 is Lies We Extinguished, and this is about a successful businesswoman meeting the most popular firefighter in the city. He is very closed off to love. He had a lot of tragedy in his life, of course. She's seen some terrible things, and neither one of them are really receptive to the other, but the way they meet, I feel like it's just so casual, but it has such a lasting impression. So that's Lies We Extinguished. Before the Lies, a precursor to the Lie series, this has that same character, firefighter named Blake, and it follows him and his best friend Rocky and his sister, Blake's sister Kat. They're three best friends with kind of the same backstory, but they each have different books. Before the Lies basically gives you a bit of an insight as to what's about to happen in the next coming books. And finally, the Rain Ridge series. This is a duology actually, but I have a separate video for these books that's about to come out, and I explain in detail what they're really about. Basically, these two books have a more dark theme. They're not exactly dark romance, but they do have dark themes in them. Once Desired is about a woman who just got hired as a sous chef at her new boyfriend's bistro, and her ex is not a fan of that. So there's a lot of tension, some stalking going on in this book. And Once Caught has two characters from Once Desired in it. This is more of like a peeping Tom, peeping Tammy romance. They're next door neighbors, worst but best possible thing that could have happened to them. And they just can't seem to get enough of each other. But they have some things in their past that were never cleared up, and it created a bunch of tension and resentment on both sides. So that's Once Caught. I'm gonna go through these next few a little more quickly because we've already mentioned a couple of them. This is for Forced Proximity, another favorite trope of mine. We already went through Greater Than Us. They're next door neighbors. Same with Once Caught, of course, and Brushed by You. January 24th is a book that came out this year. It's a snowed-in romance, happens just after the holidays, the Christmas holidays, and it's about a woman who just got fired from her job, and on one of the snowiest days of the year, she decides to go up to her family's cabin in the Poconos in Pennsylvania, and literally hours after getting there, a man kind of drops almost dead on her porch, and he's been through a crazy car accident, just looking for some help. And she ends up taking him in, so this is kind of like a one bed forced proximity kind of deal. Another one is Everything We Found. This is book 3 of the Caper series, and it's about a guy who literally just skips town because he's kind of had it in life. And the woman he left behind he had no idea if it was going to go anywhere with her, so he kind of gave up on the relationship. And she ends up getting a very alarming but random letter in the mail from her long lost sister. And it kind of it spirals into this biggest mystery in this small town, and no one has any idea what to do. And when he comes back around, he realizes that he needs to be there for her. She's actually in danger. And he sets up kind of a witness protection program for her. So this is Forced Proximity. This book is really, really, really fun. Like, there's action, there's suspense in it. There's kind of a big blowout scene at the end. I'm not gonna spoil too much, but this was a lot of fun to write. Lies We Buried is book 2 of the Lie series, and it's about a firefighter who is so down on his luck, it's unbelievable. But basically he is having major PTSD, a lot of mental health issues. He's in therapy, and he just lost the woman that meant the most to him because of these issues, and has to try to navigate through those issues. And yeah, so that is Lies We Buried. Single Dad. I feel like this is such a guilty pleasure trope for me because I know a lot of people are not a fan of kids in books, especially romance books, but I personally am. So this is about a single father who is going through a very, very, very messy divorce. His ex is very unhinged, and he meets a woman at a local coffee shop and kind of turns his world upside down in the best way. I'm gonna end up doing a part 2 to this video because we're almost out of time and there are 4 books left to go, but stick around for part 2 of my favorite tropes of all time.